Our next speaker, Andrew Ng, is co-founder of Coursera. He's also a computer science faculty member at Stanford, just around the corner, where he led the development of the main MOOC platform. And outside of that online education, his research is in machine learning. He's also director of the Stanford Artificial Intelligence Lab. Andrew, please come onto the stage. Thank you.
Thank you. So it's good to be back. I think I spoke here a year ago as well, and what I thought I'd do is give you an update on what's happening with MOOCs, massive open online courses, and then love to leave time at the end to take what questions you have. I'm actually curious, how many of you are familiar with MOOCs, with these massive open online courses? Okay, maybe about half of you. So let's see. It's a quick summary of what we do. Today, Coursera is a company that works with top universities in the US. Today, 18 of the top 25 universities are working with us, as well as top universities all around the world, including, for example, Todai, Tokyo University in Japan, as well as a number of other organizations to create free online courses. Some of you might know the story of how Coursera had gotten started. As Richard mentioned, I'm also a Stanford professor, and so for many years I was teaching a 400-student Stanford class. It was about 2.5 years ago that I placed my class online, and it reached an audience of 100,000 students. To put that number in context, for me to reach a comparable size audience, I would otherwise have had to teach at Stanford University for 250 years. And it was on the success of this first class and one other one taught by my friends that we launched Coursera to take this technology and to partner with top universities all around the world to create these massive open online courses that can be offered at scale. And so in the last 2.5 years, we've grown substantially from 2 courses, from 4 students, to today over 108 university and other partners, over 500 courses, and well over 6 million students, making Coursera by far the largest MOOC or massive open online courses platform in the world. Well, I think what we did 2.5 years ago was create a technology that enables one professor to teach not just 100 or 400, but 100,000 students. And the effect of that is that it dramatically changes the economics of higher education. There is still a large upfront cost to creating the course content once, but once you've done so, the incremental cost of signing up one more student is effectively zero, and that's what allows us to take these amazing courses from top universities and basically give them away for free. So let me say a little bit about what the student experience taking these courses is like. Like many others, we use video-based instruction, and what we've seen in the last 2.5 years is that the quality of video production has been slowly creeping up, and so today we have instructors using very creative different types of video in order to teach students, from video shot in the field to, in this example in the lower right-hand corner, the instructor was using video generated through a video game, World of Warcraft, I think, in order to teach students concepts of video games. The instructor actually shows up for the first lecture in his persona as a World of Warcraft character. So the first day you show up for class, you see that monster-like character coming onto the screen and teaching you about computer games. It turns out that video-based instruction has certain benefits even over regular classroom instruction. Let me show you just one of them, which is the ability to have accelerated playback, of video. Let me show you what one of our lecture videos looks like. And one thing we learned was that in an online format, by letting students control the speed at which they consume content, this allows them to make much more efficient use of their time.
The game, and generally we'll start with some.
So here the student speeds up the video to 1.5x speed.
And then we have to decide what are their strategies. So what are the possible actions that each player can take? Is passive and active enough of a distinction in order to really capture the details of what's going on in a predator-prey relationship? Well, probably not.
With also English captioning that we pay for, which is helpful for non-native speakers, as well as foreign language captioning, including Japanese in some classes written by student volunteers. So it turns out that in normal Stanford classroom, instructors like me tend to slow things down and just blab and make space to make sure that every student is following, because different students need different amounts of time. One nice thing about the online medium is that students can control their own pacing, and many students prefer to blast through the material at 1.5x or 2x speed, because if you miss something, you can just do an instant replay. So kind of a personal story. It was about 6 months ago that I met one of my MOOC students at a party at LinkedIn, just a couple miles from here. And the student came up to me and he said, "Oh, Professor Andrew, I really enjoy your machine learning class." And student said, "Oh, Professor Andrew, one of the things I most enjoyed about your class was the ability to take the content and blast through it at 2x speed, allowed me to make much more efficient use of my time, and if I miss something, just do this replay." And then the student said to me, "But now that I've watched 20 hours, now that I've listened to you for 20 hours of lecture video, listening to all of it at 2x speed, now that I meet you in person, I'm really, really surprised that in person, you talk so slow." In addition to the lecture videos, most of our classes are very interactive. We learned that education is more about what the student does rather than what the professor does. And so most of our lectures have interactive quizzes or polls that let students respond to the instructor's questions and get feedback. And most weeks, and in most of our classes, every week there are also more serious weekly homework quizzes that often take students hours to complete, and which we have sophisticated computer grading software to auto-grade the students' homework. And one advantage of auto-grading is that rather than taking a week to grade the students' homework, we take usually about 1 second to grade the students' homework and gives them feedback in 1 second. And we can also allow a student to try a piece of work multiple times, because the computer has the patience to grade the students' work multiple times. Whereas in a university, human graders will grade your work only once. If you don't get it, it's sort of too bad, we have to move on. But the computer can give students multiple attempts at succeeding on a piece of work. Over the last year, 2 years, we developed a number of APIs, programming interfaces, to allow our university partners to plug in rich components so that they can express their pedagogical vision. And over, I've been blown away by the richness of the experiences that our university partners have been able to give to our students. Rice University implemented taught a fantastic intro to programming class. They developed a web-based framework that allows students to write code right there into the web browser. And so at the end of their programming class, every student had implemented for themselves this sort of asteroids game in their web browser that they could play themselves. And these were sorts of experiences that the Rice University professors were giving their students. National Taiwan University, one of my friends, Benson Ye, a fantastic instructor there, wrote a program, computer game program, in which students were invited to play a game in which they had to attack other territories or defend their territories. And the way you win this game, the way you attack territory or defend your territory, is by writing or by solving quizzes on probability, which was the subject of the class. Benson tells me that the effect of putting this game out there was that it caused some students to become totally obsessed with solving problems in probability. There were students just solving probability questions day and night in order to win better at this game. And these are examples of the diversity of experiences that our university partners, instructors have been able to give students, from chemical simulators, rich interactions with music, and these were rich pedagogical visions that we at Coursera could not possibly have imagined, but it was possible only because of the APIs we open up to enable our university partners to express these pedagogical visions. Excuse me. So far I've been talking about computer grading, but not everything can be graded by computers. If you have students submit an essay, computer isn't good enough to grade that and give rich, meaningful feedback. So one of the innovations I'm most proud of is we developed a system for peer grading in which students can submit work and have their work graded by other students. Because if you have 100,000 essays submitted by 100,000 students, one professor can't grade 100,000 essays, but what you can do is train the students to grade each other's work, and then require the students to grade each other's work. And it turns out that if you require each student to grade, say, 5 pieces of work, then each student can get feedback from 5 other students about their own work. And our university partners and us have done studies that peer grading gives, I want to say, fairly accurate grades. And this has enabled our partners to again offer amazingly rich assignments. In this example, a Wharton, University of Pennsylvania professor taught a design class in which students were asked to design these physical artifacts. The students were then asked to take a picture with their cell phone camera of the artifact that they had built, and then to upload a picture of what they had built to the website, so that they could then get their assignments of building things to be peer graded by other students. This is another one of my favorite examples of peer grading. Scott Plouse is a professor at Wesleyan. He usually teaches a class of 12 students. He put this class on Coursera, and his class reached 250,000 students. One of the things that Scott Plouse did, was he, for his final assignment, he had an assignment called the Day of Compassion, in which, at the conclusion of this social psychology class, he invited his students to spend a day thinking about how you can be compassionate, how you can demonstrate compassion to people in your community, and had the students write an essay about it and be peer graded by other students, as well as have a vote to see who had the best, who would win this Day of Compassion award. The winner of the Day of Compassion Award was a student called Balesh Jindal, who spent her Day of Compassion visiting a local school of young girls and teaching and bringing awareness to the community of sexual abuse of these young girls. There was a community in which a large amount, in which girls' teachers' parents were unaware or had no guidance regarding what is and what is inappropriate, what is and what is not appropriate affectionate behavior to display to very young underage girls. And in her Day of Compassion, she brought awareness to this community, and to this community of 2,000 young girls. And I think her actions from that day, continuing on today, will protect many of these young girls from, I think, sexual abuse. So these, I think, are some of the unexpected effects that teaching massive classes at scale can have on our communities. Most of our classes also have a community built up around the material. And so when you have 100,000 students in the class, a community comes together to help each other study the class content. And so I think this combination of experiences that our platform allows universities to deliver to students has enabled Coursera to offer courses that span many different disciplines, including humanities, the sciences, social sciences, IT, business, many other areas. So one of the Coursera, from the very early days, has served a very diverse international community, from students in North America and students internationally. What we've been seeing over the last 6 months is that international growth has actually accelerated. For example, today, North America would be the largest source of our daily new user signups. So let's take yesterday, of the new users joining Coursera yesterday, to take an example day, the #1 country would be the US, and the #2 country recently became China. Here's a typical demographic of a Coursera student profile. Over 3/4 of our students already have a bachelor's degree, and the average age of our students is, I think, 36. And it turns out that whereas Coursera has its roots in university education, the biggest effect that we're having is actually not on the 18 to 21 years old, instead is on the working professionals. And I think the reason for this is that the old model of education, where you go to college for 4 years, and then the next 40 years coast on what you had learned, that makes no sense in today's world, and all of us need regular infusions of knowledge in order to stay current. All of us in this room, as working professionals, it's challenging even for us to hire a babysitter twice a night to go take night class at the community college, and the convenience of courses that you can take at home, videos you can watch on the weekends or at night, homeworks you can do any time of the week. This is bringing many working adults back into the educational system. And these sort of adults that are non-consumers, that are not currently participating in the higher education system, is, I think, the group on which we're having the largest effect today. Because of a very international population, we've also put a lot of work into internationalizing our website. So if you visit the website from China, it looks like a Chinese website. If you visit the website from various parts of Latin America, it'll look like a Spanish or a Portuguese website, and it is a Chinese or Spanish or Portuguese website. We've not yet internationalized our website into Japanese, but that is, we plan to do so in the near future as well. And finally, we're taking content and translating it into multiple languages. Today, we have courses offered natively in English, Chinese, Spanish, Italian, French, Germany, Portuguese, probably some other languages. None taught natively in Japanese yet. But the courses where the instructor is speaking these different languages. Moreover, we are also translating content into these different languages, in which we would take, say, content from an American professor and translate it into Japanese or translate it into Spanish. I think that there are language barriers in our world. That is the reality of today's planet, that there are people that don't speak English. But I think that the world is best served if all of the best professors anywhere teaches all of the students everywhere. So to take France as an example, I happen to know that the École Polytechnique teaches a fantastic class on convex optimization in French. I don't speak French, and so what the future that I would hope to see us build is to take the fantastic École Polytechnique class and translate that into English or translate that into Japanese so that non-French speakers can take that class. And I think that students worldwide want to learn from the best professors worldwide. I would love to learn from the best professors in Tokyo University about black holes. They actually have a class on that on Coursera. And similarly, I think students in Japan would like to learn from the best professors in Japan and the US and Europe. And that by translating content into multiple languages, I hope that we can do that rather than partition off different parts of the world into more balkanized regions. Coursera has also launched a mobile app. I guess we realize that in today's world, so much content consumption happens on mobile devices that if you aren't on the mobile app, you're really not reaching the students where they would like to consume the content. So we've launched first on iOS and we'll launch shortly on Android as well. Many of our students work really hard to complete their coursework, and we wanted to offer them meaningful credentials. So today, if a student signs up to earn a verified certificate, Coursera does some work to verify that it really is you sitting at the keyboard doing the work. We use a combination of technologies, including taking your picture using your computer's webcam, as well as measuring your typing rhythm. It turns out that the way you type on your keyboard, your typing rhythm is fairly unique to you. It's like a fingerprint. And so when you sign up to earn a verified certificate, every time you submit a piece of work, we take your picture using your webcam with your permission and measure your typing rhythm to make sure it really is you sitting at your keyboard doing the work. And on that basis, we are issuing verified certificates that represent a meaningful credential. It turns out that in our student surveys, the #1 reason or the #1 student intention for what they plan to do with their verified certificates is to list it on their resume. And actually, here's a statistic. Recently, we sent email to a group of students that had completed Coursera courses and invited them to, with a few clicks of a button, list their certificates on their LinkedIn profiles, on their LinkedIn resumes. I think of all the students that opened that email, 70% of the students that opened that email we sent to them actually completed the entire sign-up process to list their certificates on their public LinkedIn resumes. And I think this is a sign that students are increasingly perceiving this as a meaningful credential that will enhance their careers. On the flip side, we're also seeing employers come to us to want to interview students that have completed various combinations of Coursera courses. For example, role networks, and what we're seeing companies today that are explicitly listing, you know, of all the employee things, of all the qualities of the desired employees, what are the qualities we want in an employee, and a desire to continually learn. Specifically, but taking MOOCs, we're increasingly seeing, you know, employers, prospective employers, asking their job descriptions for applicants to list whether or not they have taken MOOCs. Because of the match between employer demands and student demands in using these credentials, just as of yesterday, just about 24 hours ago, we announced a new program called Coursera Specializations in order to help students earn more meaningful credentials to help them seek better employment opportunities. And this doesn't necessarily mean finding a new job. This also includes having students just do better in the current job function. So we launched about 10 specializations, in which these are sequences of courses where the credential has a higher meaning than a single course. So many of our specializations are offered in topics where there is a skill gap, like data science or mobile development or cybersecurity, where the demand for skilled employees in these areas is vastly greater than the number of skilled individuals that can actually do these jobs. And so for the cybersecurity specialization, for example, students are asked to complete a sequence of 4 courses. And having done so, we ask students to complete also a capstone project that ties together their coursework. On this basis, we will then, our university partner and us, will be able to offer the students a more meaningful credential in data science, cybersecurity, these other areas. The reason we invite students to complete a capstone project at the end of a specialization is twofold. First, we think that having a capstone project provides another valuable, meaningful experience for students. In our internal testing, when we did testing of possible formulations of specializations with students, we found that offering a capstone project would increase student interest in the specialization, or expected student sign-ups in specialization, by about 50%. So there's a substantial increase in the number of students that will sign up for a specialization because of the opportunity to do a capstone project that ties together their work. So that's the first reason. Second reason is that in today's world, we see hiring as becoming increasingly portfolio-based, in which employers want to see the degree you have, but they also want to see what work you have done. And so our intent for the capstone project for the specializations is to help students complete a meaningful project, build a mobile app, or do a major project in data science. But to complete a major project that they can then list in their resume and that they can then use to provide to employers as an element of their portfolio of work, to demonstrate to employers that they have already completed major projects in cybersecurity or data science or online teaching or music, to help them seek broader employment opportunities. Let's see. So one trend that we're seeing over time that we're seeing data for is that well, I guess Coursera today collects a lot of data, and the data we're seeing is that many students want to take courses to enhance their careers, and so we're working with employers in developing better products in order to help students achieve those goals. The specializations being a program that we just announced yesterday. Let's share with you one last thing that I'm very excited about, which is the data that we can collect on these massive open online courses. My personal background is in machine learning. That's why, you know, the first Coursera MOOC, my class, was a machine learning class. And one of the things that really excites me about teaching these massive open online courses is our access to data. Education has very few feedback loops. We would teach these classes, but it was very hard for instructors, for me as a Stanford professor, to really know how to improve my teaching. But on the website, we log everything. Every activity that the student takes on the website leaves a digital trace. And instead of teaching 100 students at a time, we reach 6 million. And so both because of the sheer number of students And the detail of data per student, the amount of data we can collect is unprecedented. So when I speak at different venues, I tell different stories about what we're learning with the data. Given the interest of this audience, I thought this might be one fun story to tell as an example of the sorts of things we do with the data. So here's something we learned. It turns out that if we send you an email that says, dear student, friendly reminder, homework is due this Saturday. Turns out that we send you that email, you're less likely to engage with the class. You're less likely to complete the class. But it turns out that we send you an email that says, dear student, we noticed you logged into the website last week. Good job on that, check mark. Oh, and we noticed you watched 5 videos last week. Good job on that too, check mark. Oh, and you did the last homework and got full marks. Great job on that, check mark. Oh, and you even made a comment on the discussion forum that was really useful to 5 other students. Good job on that too, check mark. Oh, by the way, the next homework is due this Saturday. If we send you that email, you're more likely to engage with the class. You're more likely to complete. So perhaps in hindsight, it's no surprise that if we remind you of the things you did well before asking for you to take the next step, you're more likely to engage. But the way we discovered this was not by insight. The way we discovered this was one of our engineers had different combinations of emails, and he just sent tens of thousands of emails to different students and just measured which email correlated with the highest retention rate. And it was only after he sent all these emails that we then went back and actually read the emails and found out that this was the email that resulted in the highest student retention. So if you think about it, if you're teaching a class with 100 students, even 400 students, there's no way you can send these 20 different types of emails to enough students to get meaningful data about what email works. The only way we've discovered this was by sending tens of thousands of emails to these hundreds of thousands of students, and then looking at the data and discovering this interesting effect. I might skip this in the interest of time. But so, just to share with you what some personal dream, I guess. I think that in today's economy, we see a hollowing out of the middle. There's a large skill gap. We live in a time where simultaneously we see rising unemployment as well as a rising number of jobs that go unfilled. I think of education as giving people superpowers. With an education, you can write software. With an education, you can cook better food for your children. With an education, you can teach other people. With an education, you will live a longer life. I think what Coursera has created, what we and our university partners have created, is a technology that gives people superpowers at scale. And I think that both at the individual level, we can give individuals much better opportunities by providing them a better education, a better ability to earn a livelihood for themselves and their family. And at the societal level, by educating individuals, I hope that we can also, frankly, accelerate the progress of our civilization. So with that, let me say thank you very much and take what questions you have. But thank you. Thank you. Please.
My question is...
Just wait 1 second for the mic so that everyone can see you.
If you have any, now that you've been in it a couple of 3 years, reflections to share with us with your entrepreneurial hat on. You're doing something new, which is taking education into a business, or transforming it into a business online. Any thoughts about what metrics now you ought to be tracking? What's it like to have raised a lot of money and have investors say, okay, well, how are we doing? What should we do next year? Any thoughts would be appreciated on the business side of MOOCs. Thank you.
Sure. So Coursera is a social entrepreneurship that's a for-profit company. We're very mission-driven. That's one of the things I'm most proud of. you know, way back when this was a small Stanford research project, it was like literally 4 guys, four students and me. We had converged on a rule number 1 for our then small Stanford research project, which is to do what's best for students. And I'm very proud that today this remains the number 1 value of Coursera. So kind of story, when we launched our verified certificates program, so here's our business model, right? The courses are free, but if you want to earn a verified certificate, we charge around $50 to $100 for that, and then the revenue is shared between us and university partners. So these verified certificates are, for all practical purposes, our only source of revenue. But when we're launching verified certificates, all of us around the table at the time felt very strongly that if we aren't that, that there will be students around the world that will really benefit from a Johns Hopkins or a Duke University or a Caltech branded certificate, but who don't have $50. And so all of us at the time felt very strongly that no matter how lucrative a business is, if we are not able to serve the neediest in our society, then, I'm frankly just not that interested. And so when we launched our Verified Certificates program, all of us at the table felt very strongly we needed to implement financial aid so that needy student can apply, fill the 1-page financial aid application and get it for free. I guess I've been told many times, frankly, that worrying about financial aid to needy students that don't have money, that's sort of not the decision of a normal company, but speaking as an educator, if all of us really felt strongly that if you want to change the world, really that's the only way to do it.
Thank you. You've got no more time. You've got to run.
Yes, I do. Well. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed for your time. So,
thank you.
Andrew, thank you. You need to probably take that apart. Sorry that we have to rush Andrew off, but he's got another meeting he's got to run to as well, and he's got a